So did you see that article on Drudge about a famous author of 6 books? He's interviewed 5 United States presidents and now earns $17 an hour delivering packages for Amazon. He published his article on Amazon, on the Atlantic website. So it's a good read. He's a 57-year-old dude, and he and his wife, I think they wanted to refinance their home, and she worked as a lawyer and made a good living, but they needed just a little more income to get the refinance, so he had to go out and get a job, and so chose to become a delivery driver. And at 57 years of age, prostate doesn't work as well as when you're 18, so you tend to go to the bathroom a lot more. And that's why you may have seen all these ridiculous videos of Amazon drivers urinating publicly, urinating in someone's backyard, urinating in their van, because it's not easy to find places to let loose like that. I got a friend who's 65 years of age. He's driving for Uber, and that's the biggest challenge in his job, is finding places to go to the bathroom. So obviously a 57-year-old distinguished author delivering packages for Amazon.com at $17 an hour, that guy just might be an under-earner, because there's absolutely no connection between publishing books and wealth. There's no connection between interviewing United States presidents and wealth. So yeah, on the one hand, if you're a writer, you can frame a story most dramatically, say, I'm an author of 6 books, I've interviewed 5 US presidents, but it's the equivalent of saying, I scored 3 touchdowns in my senior year in high school, and I banged a cheerleader, and now I'm delivering packages for Amazon. So there's no correlation between scoring touchdowns in high school and banging cheerleaders and wealth and having a good job. So I remember it was the summer, pretty sure it was the summer of 2009. And this was a job that made me feel like, wow, I've really hit bottom. Okay, so by the summer of 2009, I was 2/3 through my first year of Alexander Technique teacher training. I was in about $20,000 of credit card debt. I had about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in the bank, and facing pretty dire financial prospects. And I was blogging like crazy to try to make money, but obviously that was not doing anything. And an acquaintance called me, and he said he needed a driver. Like his previous driver hadn't worked out. And ironically, his previous driver was one of the first people that I met when I was in Los Angeles, and we'd gone for a walk, and I'd completely offended him with my tasteless jokes, and so he wouldn't go to lunch with me, and we've just been like nodding acquaintances ever since. So that's 24 years. But he couldn't handle driving my somewhat difficult acquaintance. So I said, I just don't think I can do that. And then my acquaintance says, I'll pay $100 an hour. I mean, not $100 a day. I was like, oh, okay, I'm down. I can do that. At that time, I really needed $100 a day. And so my job involved going to this guy's house by about 5:30 a.m. and picking him up, driving his car, driving him about an hour or so to work. And then he'd always have little chores for me to do. I would have to return like $2 items, $5 items, $3 items to Target. So I'd be returning this guy's bottle of vitamins or like all these little things that I would never in a million years return. But I guess that's how he had the money to pay me to drive him around. And I was so desperate for money that I took the job, because I'm not someone who likes returning stuff, particularly not $2 stuff, $3 stuff. So I'd have to do a few of these kind of really awkward chores, and it just made me feel like, wow, I've really hit bottom now. I am returning a guy's $3 supplement bottle to Target or Kmart for a refund. But then I'd have most of the next 7 hours free. So I'd go to Starbucks, and I'd hang out at Starbucks for hours, and I'd read books. I'm really into literary biographies. So I read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and I read literary biographies, and I sipped the sugar-free iced teas they have at Starbucks. And then about noon or 1 o'clock after lunch, I'd go over to where my friend was working. There was a public library nearby, and I'd hang out at the public library. Once I was hanging out at the public library, this old Asian woman, looked about 50 years of age, just like handed me $2. Like I must have struck her as a homeless guy. She just like handed me $2. And I said, no, I don't need it. And she said, I insist you keep it. So, okay, I kept it. And I remember all that summer I had delusions that I'd meet a woman, because I had an on-again, off-again girlfriend at the time, but she wasn't treating me right. So I thought, to get my self-esteem back on track, I really need to get myself a new girl, someone who treats me with respect. Right? The respect worthy for a guy who drives a cripple around for $100 a day and returns $2 items to Kmart. And so then I'd pick my friend up at about 3 p.m. And now the drive home would take 90 minutes to 2 hours. And then he'd always have appointments. I didn't think I once drove him straight home, except on Friday afternoon because of the Sabbath. So I'd drive him around to his various appointments, and I would usually be done by about 6 p.m. So I guess the job required about 12 hours from me, but it was really easy work. I was just driving and making like little errands, and I really needed the money. And I was a careless driver. I almost got into a couple of accidents. And then finally, as I was reverse parking in Beverly Hills, as I was swinging the car around to maneuver into a spot, the car went into the other lane, and a woman on the day before her wedding just smacked my car. It was my fault. So I had to shell out for the $500 deductible. I mean, and I before that, I almost gotten into pulling out of a parking space. Like you had to yell stop, because I was about to smash the car into one of those poles in a grocery store in Beverly Hills, pulling out of the parking lot. And another time I was trying to get through in traffic, and another guy was trying to get by, and like almost smashed into him. So, and my acquaintance was like, slow down, you got to be more careful. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really the lowest. This is really me hitting my absolute bottom. And that might very well have been me hitting my bottom. This is before I discovered live streaming. Then I'd just take a video camera. So it's the summer of 2009. I'd take a video camera sometimes, and I'd just sit in the car and make videos that I then upload to YouTube. But usually I'd be hard pressed to do more than one. Man, this Mexican's blowing his leaf blower and I'm trying to live stream. Not very nice of him. I don't think I've ever seen a white man with a leaf blower. I've only ever seen Mexicans. I don't think I've ever seen a black man with a leaf blower. I've only ever seen Mexicans with a leaf blower. Okay, day after Christmas in Beverly Hills. How do you like the glamour and excitement, folks? Okay, any comments in the chat I need to catch up on? She was giving an okay. Luke's residual wasp reserve and reticence. Enjoying the neck fold. She was giving an in real life Streamlab donation. Is Luke delivering packages for Amazon? No, not yet. Okay, catching up with the. Good to see you, Bob. You're a man among men. Okay, it's the glamour of Beverly Hills. So, I think about when I was hanging out at Starbucks in that summer of 2009, I said, I was trying to meet girls, fantasizing that maybe I get one of the Starbucks baristas to date me. Because of course, when they took my order, they were nice, and when they were nice and smiled at me, I thought, oh, they really want me. Of course, that was complete delusion. Hey, Luke, looks like a beautiful day there on the other side of the country. Kyle, g'day, mate. Good to see you, Kyle. So a lot of construction in Beverly Hills. A lot of condos going up. Stores are closing, West LA, and being replaced by condos and spaces for offices. So hanging out at Starbucks, and I started talking to a bloke. I think he might have been Latino. He was looking for work. He was there on his computer and he was looking for jobs, and started talking to him. Okay, so what do I do? The narcissist, I think I was talking about myself, and I met, I was on 60 Minutes. And he said, no way, what are you doing then, driving someone around and returning his supplements to Kmart for $3? And he had a laptop there with Wi-Fi, and so I pulled out my 60 Minutes clip, and he says, what are you doing? Driving people around, you're famous, you should be rich and successful. Like my whole adult life, people are telling me I should be rich and successful. Obviously, I'm not rich and successful, but I just use this as an example. There's no connection between appearing voluntarily on 60 Minutes, not as the subject of a sting. There's zero connection between appearing on 60 Minutes and affluence. There's zero connection between interviewing United States presidents like this writer in The Atlantic and leading a prosperous life. Like I could say, oh, I interviewed Bill Walsh many times, and Joe Montana, and Steve Young, and Jerry Rice, and I interviewed United States Senator Alan Cranston, Los Angeles County Supervisor Mike Antonovich, and Ron Jeremy, and Jenna Jameson, and there's absolutely no connection between any of those journalistic assignments and leading a prosperous life. So writers complain a lot because writers, I think, are more in touch with their feelings than the average bloke, because their work requires some emotional intelligence, and there's a market for this first person writing about shame, right? My view of first person writing or first person streaming is, generally speaking, it should focus on what you feel ashamed of, because nobody really wants to hear tales of your triumph. People usually don't want to hear tales of your success, but they want to hear about the tales of your shame, tales of your defeats, tales of your abject humiliations, right? If I'm going to read some first-person writing, I want it to be the equivalent. Some dude who's published 6 books, interviewed 5 presidents, and now delivers packages for Amazon for $17 an hour. So the guy's obviously an under earner. And you can be very smart, you can have elite university degrees and still be a chronic under earner. And there are a lot of jobs he could get that will pay a lot more and be much better suited for him than $17 an hour delivering for Amazon. Particularly when you're 57 and he's like in a constant crisis of looking for a bathroom and keeps like empty Gatorade bottles in the back of his Amazon delivery truck, so when all else fails he can just take a whiz there into his empty Gatorade bottle. 57-year-olds don't want to do that. It's not life. I remember when I was writing on the porn industry, I would hang outside of Sado's nightclub, I think on Tuesday nights. They had porn star karaoke. And so the porn stars would come by and I'd interview them and take pictures of them singing karaoke. And there was another photographer who would come along. She had her own porn websites, but she would add these sort of social shots to them. And so this is 2005, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. And for a while there, we were really friendly. And she'd make the point, you don't want to be doing this when you're 45. So at that point, I was 38, 39, 40, 41. She'd say, like, what's your plan? Now, I've got a plan. What's your plan? Man, these drivers don't really have the Christmas spirit. And I remember I met this, I was at Friday Night Live at Sinai Temple. And I'd always carry a book around with me because otherwise I find Jewish religious services kind of boring. So it'd be a Jewish related book. So I'm holding onto my book and after I dip into it in and out during the services and then do a little praying, a little singing, a little clapping, and then get some inspiration from my book. And then after services, there was like this speed dating thing. So where you got to talk to someone for 5 minutes, like 2 minutes each person. And so I'm holding my book, and so she asked about my book, and I asked about her, and she's doing a PhD in English. So it's like, whoa, she's not only cute, but she's doing a PhD in English, and she's not a liberal. Okay, she's not a lefty, she's not conservative or a right-winger either. She's just independent. She's not. So meeting a Jewish girl who's not a lefty, is doing a PhD in English, she's very smart, and she's cute. Okay, she's like a 7. And she's an academic and really smart, and we hit it up and find out she wants to convert to Judaism. So, I mean, this is a woman that I'm hitting it off with on all cylinders. So I get her information, and she calls me up and says, hey, I'm here at work, and we're Googling you, and like the guy next to me is like warning me about going out with you. And so this is like 2004. So she still goes out with me, and what is it? It's Lag BaOmer. It's Lag BaOmer. So it's the middle of summer, 2004, and like she meets me at my place. She gives me a big hug, and I take her to a Lag BaOmer event at a synagogue, and we're up on top of this building looking out across LA, and like we just join it up, and she's loving it. And I said, okay, I want to stop by this karaoke event. And she says, okay. So I take her along to this karaoke event, but I don't mention exactly what type of karaoke event it is. So, right, you get it, you understand what type of karaoke event I'm taking her to on our first date. So yeah, we go to One Star Karaoke, and she just comes in, and she knows there's a lot of slags, and Some of them are singing karaoke, but she doesn't really think anything of it. I take some pictures. I say I have to take some pictures for my blog, and when I take her out of there, I say, "Oh, that was porn star karaoke." She says, "Oh, I didn't know that." So I took her for a Lag BaOmer at an Orthodox synagogue, and then to karaoke. And so yeah, it went swimmingly. And I think next day it was to Shavuot. So I took her to synagogue, Orthodox synagogue, and took her to a friend's home for a dinner, and then back to the synagogue, and all the guys at synagogue are hitting on her. Anyway, she's gone on to marry Hollywood Jewish royalty, and she's had a very successful life. She made an excellent choice and became an esteemed professor. And there's probably a point to that story, and I've completely forgotten what it is. The point is that I like attractive women, smart women, well-read women, and I take them to interesting places and I make them scream my name. So there was this Sandra Singh Low. Do you guys know who Sandra Singh Low is? She's fairly well known in Southern California. She does a science minute on public radio station here, and she's published a lot of books, such as about living in Van Nuys, and publishes regularly in The Atlantic. Professor of writing and performance at USC. She does a lot of one-man plays and one-woman plays in her case. And she's Asian. Her dad's a physicist, or the equivalent, and she's a great performer, a very funny writer. And she was hosting a dinner party, something like 2006. And all the guests at the dinner party were these highly successful, never married Jewish spinsters in their 30s and 40s. And they all had their Tupperware, and they had everything very precise, and they're all very well dressed. They're all erudite, hyper-educated, super verbal, very articulate. And they start talking, and it turns out that every single one had dated me. And they all had the same story, that like, here was this guy who was good looking, who was charming, who was well read, who was erudite, who was intelligent, who seemed to be living a good life and headed for great things. And then they Googled him, and shock and awe, what a disappointment, what a horror that was. And they just got the hell out of there. So yeah, I think that was my point. Like, everyone assumed that I was headed for great things, or that I seemed really successful. And then they'd Google me, and there was just like this enormous split between the person that they'd met and their conception of what that person was like, and then the horror of what a Google search would reveal. So it's kind of the classic under-owner, underachiever mentality. I remember I was profiled in the Jerusalem Report. It used to be a bi-weekly magazine out of Jerusalem, obviously, and they sold all around the Jewish world. And a friend of mine saw it, and I dated her on and off for about 2 years, but we never got serious. She always kept me at arm's length. She found me incredibly charming and interesting when we met. Then she Googled me, and she was absolutely horrified. And so she told her friends, if I was to sleep with him, I'd have to wrap him in saran wrap. I'd have to test him for every STD under the sun. Then wrap him in saran wrap for a month and deep freeze him before I'd ever go to bed with him. So we never did go to bed. And again, this is a professor, a highly accomplished professional. And so she would just go out with me about every month. We'd go out to dinner, go out to a movie. But when I asked for more, to go out more often, she said no. So she ended up marrying someone else, and I was at her home for Friday night Shabbat dinner. This is 2001, summer of 2001. and she's got a condo in Beverly Hills. Her husband's successful, she's successful, and she says, "Oh, I read your article," and she says, "We all call Luke the great underachiever." So that's basically my reputation in the Jewish community. Oh, that's Luke. He's the great underachiever. He's a guy who spends all his time talking to Goyim on YouTube and making bupkis. Okay, making a few $100s a month talking to Goyim on YouTube. He's a schmendrick. He's a schlepper. He's a loser, and that's my reputation, the great underachiever. So people see that I have talent, but they just wonder why I can't put it together. Why do I waste all my time talking to Goyim on YouTube for bupkis? So let me see what I'm missing in the chat. What's a fluffer? Shabbat zoned. Wow, except for the degenerate and Jewish stuff, I'm always amazed at my similar life courses. Luke, how many budding relationships has Google slain? Probably 50 at least. Luke is an intellectual fluffer. Chinese love karaoke. Yeah, I was expanding her cultural. I was not just expanding her cultural horizons. I was expanding her field of awareness. And now for I shouldn't have done that. Ashanda. Uh-oh. Oh God, Luke, why? I love a success story, even more than a success story. I love a dude who F's his life up and gets his life together again story. Okay, make a new plan, Stan. Success gives a new model to overcome failure. You don't learn much from failure except what not to do. Oh, cancel that. I think Luke is out doing a live neighborhood patrol, a responsible citizen doing his duty. Yeah. Okay, I had my fun in the sun, and I never converted to Mammonism. And what's a fluffer industry term for a gal who makes a guy hard before filming? Yeah, I'm an intellectual fluffer. Like, I was getting all these women ready for marriage, okay? They saw me, and then they went, okay, that was exciting. Like, I took a walk on the way outside. She was never offended. This was the one I took to shul and then Porn Star Karaoke the same evening. She just loves collecting stories, and believe me, she has 100 stories that are far wilder than that. Okay, so she's been a good friend. We never crossed the line into romance, and she loves collecting stories of the crazy paths that her life has taken, because I'm not the only crazy guy to come into her life. She's had a lot of like highly accomplished guys who've come into her life, and guys with like weird hang-ups, and like usually guys who just absolutely hate me. Like, the role that I played in her life is hilarious, because I mean, Dee hangs out in the winner's circle. Okay, she doesn't just hang out in the winner's circle. She lives in the winner's circle. She has a beautiful home, highly accomplished husband. She lives in the winner's circle. She goes to the elite Shabbat dinners. She hosts the elite Shabbat dinners. She hosts the elite Hanukkah and Sukkah parties. She goes to the best parties. She goes to Hollywood premieres. She goes to the equivalent of the Oscars, maybe literally the Oscars. I don't track all this stuff. I just have some acquaintance, but she knows everyone, and pretty much all these people in the winner's circle, not everyone, but many of them know Luke Ford or know of Luke Ford and kind of hate Luke Ford or appalled by Luke Ford. And she has to kind of justify her friendship. I mean, she's lost a lot of friends simply for being friends with me. She has to say, well, he's interesting. He amuses me, or trying to imagine how she would explain it. But so many people have just been so deeply triggered, offended, appalled, disgusted by my writings, or on my videos. It's like, how can you be friends with that guy? I can't be friends with you if you're going to be friends with him. She has suffered that so many times. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune simply for being friends with me. What a gal.